Chapter 1. The Uchiha. Ninshu shall unite humanity. Those were the last words of Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of six paths, the creator. Since the beginning of time, the human race had embroiled itself in conflicts of power, greed, and ambition. It was a cycle of never-ending violence that was supposed to end when the sage taught humans the power of chakra. With that gift, he had wished to give peace, yet humans have an uncanny habit of destroying themselves on their own. The chakra that was supposed to unite became the catalyst for even greater violence between the sage's two sons, Indra and Ashura. If only Hagoromo had understood humanity's fault lay in its twisted emotions, and granting them power would only embolden them. A proof of that claim itself was the conflict between the sage's sons, which began over a simple matter of succession. Power. The sage who taught the world the importance of peace couldn't teach his own sons the same values. And that was the beginning of a massacre that went on for centuries. A massacre that still happened every day. Chakra was weaponized by the sage's elder son, Indra. Being the firstborn and more powerful among his father's sons, he considered it his lawful right to succeed his father. But the sage chose the younger brother and divided the brothers forever. Ashura, the younger brother, loved his brother, but was a dutiful son of his father. He tried to make peace, but the sage insisted that Ashura be his successor. It divided the world. Those who believed in Indra and his lawful right pledged their families to him. And those who truly loved the sage above all pledged their loyalty to Ashura. And that started the Infinite War. As time passed, both brothers fought against each other with their respective supporters, transforming their families into various ninja clans. The Uchiha and the Senju. Two opposite factions rose that battled against each other over the centuries long after the death of Indra and Ashura. The conflict became less a matter of rightful succession or fulfilling the sage's wish, but a matter of establishing dominance, pride, and revenge. Peace never came, for the various noble clans following these two houses had their own agenda and always continued to encourage war. Various powerful individuals, groups, nations started hiring these two factions for their own selfish motives. The Clan Wars era. This was the name of the current conflict going on between the two factions. When the war between Indra and Ashura had first started, most of the world had expected the elder son's faction to win, for he was more powerful and talented than his brother and his supporters. But the Senjus proved more resilient and intelligent than their elder siblings, for they secured alliances of several other factions to their cause with cooperation, marriage, money, and other benefits. While the Uchiha, despite being the more powerful in combat, had one fatal flaw, which they continued to inherit from their founder, Indra. Superiority. Following in Indra's footsteps and ideology, the Uchiha continued to believe in their skill, prowess, and Sharingan. Fire-bearers were they called, rumored to be descendants of dragons, ones destined either for unimaginable greatness or sheer madness. The Uchihas didn't form many alliances, unlike the Senju, believing the inferior and smaller clans owed their loyalty to Indra and his successors, that it was their duty to bow to their superiors. It led to their isolation, but despite that they continued to survive and fight, for their Sharingan prowess had no equal. Yet as the centuries passed and the conflicts increased, the Uchihas started to lose. Their power started to dwindle, with more and more clans joining the Senju, which only served to fuel the anger among the Uchihas. In their mad quest for power, they established the practice of clan members wedding their siblings or cousins to keep their bloodline pure, to prevent outsider blood from corrupting their future generations. So worse became their madness that any clan member wedding outside the clan was killed along with any children of theirs. Instead of killing their enemies, the Uchihas started killing themselves. The Senjus used this advantage to fully destroy the Uchiha to such extent that they were no longer worthy of being equal of the Senjus in power and dominance. The proud descendants of Indra continued to dwindle until another catastrophe struck them. The Sharingan vanished. It came as the worst devastation upon the warriors, who prided themselves on their powerful eyes. Many researchers and doctors suggested interclan marriage the reason behind this phenomenon. Others suggested the Uchihas were simply weakened along with many different reasons. Whatever the true reason, it didn't change the fact that the Sharingan was gone, and nothing the Uchihas did manage to restart their prized dojutsu among their clan members. Another century passed, and the Uchiha's fall continued to become worse and worse. It became clear to all. The House of Dragon was dying. Taijima Uchiha watched as a group of boys practiced their martial art exercises in the open green field. There were 5 of them, all wearing the same armor along with sharing another common trait. They were blood brothers. Taijima's 5 sons. Heirs to House Uchiha. The proud father smiled on seeing his 2 eldest battling against each other in a deadly kenjutsu battle. Despite being only 8 years and 7 years old, Madara and Izuna were Taima's pride. Their house might have lost their famed Sharingan and much of their dominance across the world. But it had not diminished the Uchiha's superiority in ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu and many others arts. They were proud warriors and their house still had enough numbers to continue their rightful war against the bloody Senjus. Taijima smiled when Madara unleashed a fireball towards his younger brother, which was countered by a similar attack from Izuna. Madara was Taijima's firstborn and strongest son. He had inherited all of Taijima's strength and looks, he was a skilled warrior and worthy of leading the clan in the future. And unlike his younger brothers, he was not soft. Izuna was the second son, 7 of age, and successor of their house if Madara died. While not as strong as his brother, Izuna was loved by their clansmen. He was a good leader, efficient fighter and staunch supporter of all his brothers. Taijima watched his 3rd and 4th sons continue their shuriken practice together. The twins, Yushiro and Inabi, looked identical and shared their father's looks. They were young boys of 6 years and were decent fighters. Although they were too arrogant for their own good, a trait which Taijima worried would harm them on the battlefield. And there was his last and youngest son. Taijima couldn't help but be pained on seeing the young boy. Brown of hair and the fair complexion, he was the spitting image of his mother and Taijima's deceased wife, Hikari Uchiha. Naruto Uchiha, 5 of age, 5th and youngest of Taijima's sons, was different from his elder brothers. It was not just the looks but what the boy represented that made him a pariah among his own family and the clan. Hikari had died giving birth to the boy and given him his name. Taijima had loved his wife dearly, and it had broken him when she died. He had tried to be a dutiful father to his 5 motherless sons along with playing the part of the head of their ancient and noble house. A task made even more difficult with the Senju breathing down on their necks. Naruto grew up to be his mother's image. Kind of heart and a happy child who adored his elder brothers even if most of them despised him, blaming their mother's death on the child. Taijima had himself remained indifferent to his youngest son, and only provided him the basic needs. Naruto was not as strong as his brothers, or had the strong will necessary of an Uchiha. He loved too much, forgave too much, and most of the time was oblivious to the world around him. Naruto would never be someone worthy and useful to the clan. The only reason Taijima hadn't disowned him was because of the fact that he needed heirs in this treacherous world where children died, and most of all because Hikari had made Taijima promise to look after the boy. With Taijima indifferent to the boy, the clan also lost all interest and ignored Naruto Uchiha. He was nothing but a spare heir and a weakling. The strong survive, the weak die. Taijima frowned when Yushiro and Inabi mocked their youngest brother when he failed to produce a fireball and ended up coughing his lungs out. Bloody weakling, spat Inabi distastefully. Yushiro went forward to bonk his coughing brother only to have a shadow step in between. Looking up, the 3rd son of Taijima saw his elder brother standing before him with a sharp look in his dark eyes. "What are you doing?" asked Izuna, and narrowed his eyes when Yushiro clenched his fists while glaring at a scared Naruto. "Teaching him a lesson. He is a weakling and a disgrace to our clan. Can't even form a simple fireball jutsu," said Yushiro angrily, and flinched when Izuna gave him a cold look. "He is our brother," reminded Izuna. "He killed mother," yelled Anabi furiously. Izuna stepped forward, making his two young brothers take a step back. Taijima was about to move to intervene, when Madara sighed and grabbed the two angry children by their collars. "Come, I'll teach you a new jutsu beside the lake," proposed the eldest with a grin. "Really? Nisan?" asked both the excited boys with joy in their eyes. Madara was their hero after all. "Yes. So go along now." The two brothers cheered and ran towards the lake to learn something new from their prodigal brother, completely ignoring their previous anger at their youngest sibling. Madara saw Izuna was still seething in anger and laid a hand on his shoulder. "Let it go, Izuna. They are kids," advised Madara, only to receive a heated glare from his closest sibling. "Naruto is our brother, Nisan." Madara saw the scared and whimpering boy staring at them. He didn't hate him like Yashiro and Anabi did, but he didn't love him as well. In this regard, Madara was just like his father, with both of them tolerating Naruto, but not doing anything more. Izuna was the only one who cared for the boy and looked after him. "Fine. But don't try to play favorites, Izuna. Yashiro and Anabi are our brothers as well," reminded Madara patiently. "So is Naruto." Madara sighed again. His brother was stubborn and would not relent. "Very well." With that, Madara was gone to join his two brothers waiting for him by the lake. Furious, Izuna turned towards their father and saw the man giving him a firm look. "Do you have something to say, boy?" asked Taijima sternly, and watched the boy clench his fists shut. "No, father." Izuna turned away from his father and marched towards his youngest brother. The young boy glanced at him with watery eyes, and Izuna flinched on seeing the burned lips. Gods, was he so stubborn? "Nisan, can you teach me a jutsu, please?" asked the shy boy. "You are injured," said Izuna hesitantly, and saw the boy flinch when he tried to touch his burned lips. "No. I can fight." "Just like you," proclaimed little Naruto with such confidence that broke Izuna's heart. But the truth was, Naruto couldn't perform ninjutsu well. Every Uchiha child had to perform a fireball jutsu as their rite of passage into adulthood at the age of 6. In a few weeks, the boy's birthday would come and he would be obligated to pass. However, Naruto was struggling. He was less skilled and hard-headed, which resulted into him getting injured most of the time. But if he failed the rite of passage, Izuna feared the boy would become even more hated among the clan, for the Uchiha never tolerated the weak. The only reason Naruto even had a comfortable life was because he was the son of the clan head. A despised son, but a son nonetheless. "I'll teach you, but tomorrow. Now we need to heal your injuries," promised Izuna, but the brown-haired boy shook his head. "Now." Izuna smirked at the boy's childish demand to learn when he looked ready to fall over from exhaustion. It was why Izuna loved his youngest brother. He was a stubborn fool, but a person who never gave up. A child who was determined to prove himself despite no support from his blood family. "Well, I can. But then I won't have time to treat you to ramen," said Izuna with a hidden smile. If possible, the child seemed to have regained his lost energy as he literally jumped in the air. All excited and completely forgetting the cold treatment given to him by his other brothers. "Ramen!" yelled Naruto with a fist pumped in the air. Izuna chuckled at the display, feeling happy at seeing that smile. Naruto had that way about him. One smile from the boy could take away a day's worth of Izuna's fatigue. So when he offered his back, Izuna's youngest brother happily jumped and grabbed his neck affectionately. "You are the best, Nisan," yelled Naruto, nearly making Izuna go deaf. Gods, the boy was loud. How could an Uchiha be that? Izuna watched their father staring at them with a strange look in his eyes. The second son of Taijima simply gave a respectful nod to the man before starting his walk towards the town, happy to involve himself in the endless chattering of his youngest brother. Naruto observed the vast town built by his ancestors. It was so huge, so many lights, and with so many people trying to sell so many pretty things. He was so enraptured with the sight of new toys in a nearby shop, but he then remembered father telling them Uchiha played with swords, not wooden horses. Still, Izuna saw him staring at the wooden horse and bought it for him. For that gesture, he happily kissed his brother's cheek, earning a laugh from his favorite brother. Naruto felt happy whenever he was with him. Izuna never scolded him, okay, maybe when he tried to sneak out at midnight outside the city walls. Those were the only times his brother had been furious with him, warning that the world was dangerous, especially for an Uchiha. Naruto didn't know why Izuna said that, but he obeyed his brother. Yashiro and Inabi were always mean to him, making fun of him, even trying to hit him whenever they could. Madara would put a stop to that whenever he noticed, but his eldest brother never talked with him much. And it hurt. "Ni-san, does Madara and I hate me?" Izuna stared at him in surprise even as he continued taking them towards the infirmary to heal Naruto's burned lips. "No. Madara is busy. He is the heir to our house, our future leader. He just has a lot of stuff to do," said Izuna hesitantly. "He talks with Yashiro and Inabi, but not with me. I don't like him," said Naruto, his cheeks puffing red with anger. "Naru. No. I have you, I don't need him. Or stupid Yasi-chan or Inabaka." Izuna chuckled a little at his brother's silly statement. At times he had to remind himself Naruto was still a child and yet to grow up. He was yet to see the battlefield, something all his brothers had already done so in varied fashions. Madara and Izuna had fought on the front lines, even Yashiro and Inabi had fought under their father's guidance. Naruto was the youngest, and as much as Izuna hated to accept, he was not much strong. Maybe he would be if father and Madara gave him a chance, but that was unlikely to happen anytime soon. Their family had never been the same after mother died. Izuna loved all his brothers. He respected Madara, looked after Yashiro and Inabi, but most of all he doted on his baby brother Naruto. People said he looked like mother, and Izuna wanted to believe that mother would like it if he looked after her youngest son. He finally managed to get Naruto to the infirmary and summoned a medic to heal his wounds. His brother was given instant attention, for they were the sons of their house's leader. Naruto was so happy playing with his wooden horse as the medic finished healing his burns and applied salve along with bandage. She even gave the young boy some toffees, earning a broad smile from the brown-haired boy. "Should we go for ramen?" asked Izuna. "Yes." Izuna smacked his forehead when his kid brother ran out of the infirmary, making two nurses lose their balance and fall on their butts. He apologized on his brother's behalf and ran after him. "Not so fast," warned Izuna. His warning was received a little late as Naruto bumped into some guards out for patrol. They were about to scold him, but then noticed who he was and gave him scorned looks. Even those vanished when Izuna approached and glared at them. Izuna smirked when the guards flinched on seeing him, apologized to his brother, and ran off. They know their place. Still, he went forward and bumped his brother lightly on the head, making him scowl. "Hey! Watch where you go, baby brother," admonished Izuna. Naruto huffed and placed his hands across his chest, sitting flat on his ass in the middle of the street. Izuna saw many ladies and girls swoon over the young boy, and men giving him disapproving looks for such childish behavior. Izuna poked his forehead. "Let's race, then," he said, uncaring about the disapproving looks from the Uchiha men. Naruto's smile could have brightened an entire city. Madara found his two brothers chatting and eating in the ramen stand. Well, it was Naruto gulping down his third bowl of ramen with Izuna watching him fondly. As he watched those two interact, Madara couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy. He and Izuna were close as brothers, but the bond which Izuna shared with Naruto was something else. Madara didn't know what to feel towards his youngest brother. He was family, but Madara still had hazy memories of the day their mother died while giving birth to Naruto. He could still remember her asking him and Izuna, her eldest sons, to look after her remaining children. And Madara had tried to fulfill her wish. He had looked after Yashiro and Inabi in life and war, but he was not there for Naruto. Maybe it was how similar he looked to their mother, or how innocent he was compared to their hard-hearted clan. Madara didn't know how to interact with the boy. He didn't want to be cruel to him like Yashiro and Inabi, but he was not much enthusiastic to be close either. But one thing was sure, Naruto was an Uchiha and his brother. And Madara would protect him from any harm. He just didn't know how to talk with this child. He was not Izuna. With a sigh, he decided to do what he was told to. Izuna. His second brother turned towards him in surprise as Madara entered the ramen stand. Naruto paled and instantly buried his head in his half-empty ramen bowl. Madara let him be. Come join us, Nisan invited Izuna with a smile. Father wants you to accompany him to a meeting with the elders, informed Madara. Okay, just let me drop Nara home and dash. Madara shook his head. Now. And don't argue because you know you cannot. Go, I'll take him home, offered Madara, and saw Izuna was not comfortable with the idea, but when father said something, you do it without any questions. Izuna nodded. Madara could see Naruto wanted to bolt as well, but Izuna whispered something to him that made the boy nod. Before leaving, the second son of Taijima turned towards his eldest. Try to talk with him, Madara. He is our brother, suggested Izuna kindly. Izuna. Takashi died 2 days ago on a mission. He was just 6, brother. What is your point? Asked Madara sharply. Life is too short for regrets, Nisan. Madara was stunned and stood still even as his brother left. Izuna sometimes said things like this that showed his true intellect beyond his age. It made the eldest son of Taijima look at his youngest sibling for a long moment. With another sigh, Madara grabbed a seat beside the boy. Despite having an age difference of barely 3 years, Madara felt as if they were ages apart. The two of them were so different. Still, he had to try for Izuna's sake at least. Heard you got injured during training, asked Madara in a calm manner. Yes, Nisan. Just a little. Madara flinched on hearing the fear in the boy's voice. Had he terrified the boy that much? How goes your shuriken training? Asked Madara, and this time the boy beamed. Very good. I can hit 3 targets right in the center at once, replied Naruto excitedly. Madara grinned a little. Maybe his brother had some hope after all. Would you like to show me when we reach home? I'm free for the rest of the day, suggested Madara. He could see the boy was nervous and decided to make him a little relaxed. If you prove what you say, I will teach you one jutsu. Madara paled on seeing the hungry look that arrived in Naruto's excited eyes. He wanted to learn from his eldest brother, whom people called a prodigy, had yearned for it for so long that it made Madara sad. I'll do it. Then you'll teach me a cool jutsu, asked the boy. Yes. Before he could say anything, Naruto slammed the money for the food Izuna had left on the counter and dashed out. Madara banged his head against the table. How could he forget the little rascal liked to run a lot at every chance? He ran after his brother. Madara was impressed. Never had he imagined his youngest brother to have such skill. Naruto had always struggled with ninjutsu, which was shameful for an Uchiha, but the boy had another dangerous skill. He was skilled in kenjutsu. The way he held his tanto, his firm yet flexible stance, his excellent speed, and the way he made his weapon dance in the air. The fact that he was making Madara put real effort in the fight was a testimony of his skill. His little brother unleashed 3 shuriken from his pouch and threw them at Madara. The older brother easily deflected the attacks and saw his sibling use the precious second to get close. Madara anticipated a fast strike, but what happened next surprised him even more. His brother tried to sweep his legs. Madara jumped quickly in the air and brought his tanto downwards, eliciting a sharp sound as Naruto parried it with his own tanto. Madara launched a kick towards his opponent's chest, which the boy evaded at the last second. He was not given any respite as Madara unleashed a dozen shuriken towards him. Naruto in turn grabbed his similar weapons, jumped in the air, and countered the attack by making every shuriken of his clash against his brothers. Flipping in the air, he aimed a pointed downward slash of his tanto towards a surprised Madara, only to receive a reverse kick that sent him crashing across the ground and spit blood. He tried to rise back on his feet to show his brother that he was not yet done, but his chest hurt. "You did good." Naruto smiled at the rare praise he received from his eldest brother. He even helped him get back on his feet and fulfilled his promise by showing him a jutsu that complemented his skills. "You are good with weapons. Your accuracy is good, so let me teach you how to make your shuriken attack more deadly and longer in range," explained Madara. Naruto nodded dutifully. Madara showed him the hand seals, which were a set of 3 signs which Naruto learned quickly. Next, Madara advised him regarding the amount of chakra he had to use to make his attack more deadly. All sons of Taijima had already been taught chakra control exercises in hopes of making them true warriors at early age. And it was proving useful now. Naruto threw a single shuriken followed by performing the hand seals Madara had shown him, while also infusing some chakra. He was surprised when his single shuriken turned into 7 more replicas and struck more targets. "Good. Make your hand signs faster. On the battlefield, a delay of even a second could cost you your life," warned Madara. "Yes, Nisan." Madara nodded and turned around to walk away now that his job was done when Naruto's words struck him. "You do care about me." If not for his self-control, Madara didn't know what he would have done on hearing those words, so he chose a standard reply. "You are my brother. As your eldest sibling, it is my duty to protect you." Naruto smiled at him happily. Madara couldn't understand why this boy was so happy. All he had done for him was teach him a simple jutsu which anyone else could have done as well. But the way Naruto was smiling showed as he was given a mountain full of gold. The boy was strange. He was distracted from his thoughts when he saw Izuna enter the compound and storm towards his room. He looked furious. "Naruto, go get some rest in your room," commanded Madara. "But dash. Now." The boy huffed, earning a raised eyebrow from Madara. 2 seconds later, Naruto instantly ran towards his room, earning a faint smile from Madara. Maybe Izuna was not so wrong about him. Still, he decided to let Izuna fume. When his second brother was angry, it was best to leave him alone, and Madara had a feeling as to who could have made him so. Yet he couldn't help but wonder why Izuna was so mad. A week later, Madara found his answer as he stood on the battlefield alongside a large number of his clansmen and all his brothers. Taijima stood at the front of the 300-strong Uchiha force, ready to face their sworn enemies. In front of him was the Great Tama River, a key strategic water source that was the lifeline of several nearby villages. One which had been controlled by the Senjus for more than a century, now soon to be in the possession of the Uchiha. Losing this river would harm the Senju's interests greatly and secure a key victory for the Uchihas, which would get them more contracts from the wealthy feudal lords who had been recently flocking to the Senjus more. He stared at his sons, all of whom were going to participate in the battle. Madara was composed and ready as he always was. Yashiro and Inabi were eager to fight in order to kill their house's sworn enemies. Izuna was furious. The second son of Taijima, instead of standing beside his father, was standing protectively around his youngest brother. Naruto's face was a mixture of apprehension, fear and excitement. He was a child of 5 and normally it would be a few months before he joined his brothers in this endless conflict. But Taijima had seen Naruto's struggle with ninjutsu and doubted his son could learn the fireball jutsu before his rite of passage came. If he failed, it would dishonor their family amidst their clan. So Taijima had brought him here in hopes of making the green boy see what dangers awaited him, and how he had to mend his ways to be a better Uchiha like his brothers were. If Naruto performed well, then their clan members might just ignore his lack of prowess in ninjutsu, and if he died, then at least he would die with honor and a tanto in hand. He would be a true Uchiha. Izuna had been furious with him and argued every day to revoke his decision, but Taijima had made his choice. His youngest son would either become a true Uchiha or die as one on this battlefield. Naruto. The nervous boy, who had been biting his lip in silent anticipation, looked up at his favorite brother and saw him smile reassuringly. "Stick them with the pointy end." Naruto smiled and nodded as he gripped his short tanto firmly in his two little hands. Soon enough he heard the war horns blowing across the other side of the river and saw movement inside the woods there. Moments later, an army of warriors clad in armor rushed out with their swords and weapons, their cries of war being returned by the Uchiha in equal fervor. As they charged, Naruto stuck to Izuna's side and noticed that while the enemy wore armor, his clansmen didn't have any such protection. Instead, the Uchihas wore their war clothes and rushed towards the battle. For some reason, Naruto found this strange and stupid. He was mesmerized when a black rain rose high in the sky, and he noticed it was rain of kunai and shuriken descending down upon his side. The Uchihas deflected the incoming attacks with ease, but some were not fast enough to counter the massive storm raining from the skies and fell as blood gurgled out of their mangled bodies. Naruto watched in horror as his elder brother Inabi fell to the ground, clutching his little throat where a sharp kunai lay buried. He stood motionless, waiting for his mean older brother to get up, but Inabi continued to stay still even as a pool of red blood started forming around his corpse. His brother was dead. The battlefield was engulfed in chaos, with the sounds of weapons clashing, men screaming, jutsu being unleashed filling the air. Men and women fought against each other, trying to kill each other as viciously and savagely possible. Naruto saw Yashiro cry in agony on watching his twin brother die. The older Uchiha roared fiercely, followed by leaping in the air to stab a teenage Senju in the belly. Yashiro howled and slashed two more surprised Senjus, viciously hacking them to death before three swords pierced his torso. Yashiro grinned weakly as he let one kunai fall from his pouch. There was an explosion that ripped Yashiro to shreds along with the men who killed him. Naruto stood numb, watching his second brother die as the blood and guts rained down on him. Anger. It surged through his body like a tidal wave as he grabbed his tanto and ran towards the nearest Senju. Ignoring the armored chest, Naruto viciously hacked at the man's knees, making a torrent of blood erupt along with the enemy's cry as he fell to the ground. The last thing he ever saw was Naruto's tanto being buried in his brain. Naruto had to deflect a dozen shuriken that were aimed to kill him. In his bloodlust, he charged forward, stepping over dead bodies and spilled guts. The Senju woman blinked when he jumped in the air, and she poorly tried to raise her weapon, but not fast enough as Naruto sliced her neck brutally. He hacked, he slashed. He ran, he fell. He stabbed, he parried. His mind was in a daze as he continued to kill isolated Senju warriors with the help of his clansmen, never showing them an ounce of mercy. Yashiro and Inabi were always mean to him, but they were his brothers. And these bad men killed them. He whirled around as he sensed an incoming attack and managed to parry a tanto from slicing his head off. He was finally snapped out of his rage and noticed it was a young girl. She had blonde hair that barely reached her shoulders, bright green eyes that were full of anger and fear. Her little body was covered in heavy Senju armor, and she was the same age as him. Naruto roared in anger, which made her flinch, and he used that moment to disarm her, followed by a vicious kick that sent her sprawling to the ground. Covered in blood and guts, eyes ablaze with righteous fury, and tanto dripped with red blood of his enemies, he charged towards his new enemy to end her life. He roared as he raised his weapon to stab her and stopped. For she was crying. Pure, crystal-like tears ran down her fair and chubby cheeks, her green eyes staring at him with fear and a pleading. His hands shook as he saw her cry, a girl the same age as him, and he wanted to kill her. But then he noticed the Senju emblem on her armor, and remembered her clansman killing 2 of his brothers minutes ago. Tsunade. He looked up to see 4 angry young boys charging towards him. There was murder in their eyes as they saw Naruto's Tonto hovering above the little girl. With an angry snarl, Naruto met those 4 head-on, ignoring the defeated girl. The first to meet him was a silver-haired older boy with cold eyes that made Naruto shiver as they clashed their blades. He was stronger and pushed Naruto as the remaining boys closed in for the kill. Naruto's eyes widened, for he knew he wouldn't be able to evade. He would die just like Uchiha had. Until there was a wild rush of air as a shadow jumped in between, battling away the blades of the Senju. "You will not kill my brother, Senju," yelled Izuna furiously. Naruto smiled in relief when his brother kicked away the silver-haired boy that was pushing Naruto back. The Senjus narrowed their eyes on the new enemy as Izuna shot a quick glance at his brother. "Stay behind me, Naru." The little boy nodded and took up position behind his older brother. Izuna bared his sword forward as the Senju boys surrounded them. It was the silver-haired boy who charged again, with Izuna meeting him head-on. Naruto blocked the blades from the other 2 boys, one with half black and half white hair, and the other with brown hair. With all his strength, Naruto pushed the 2 Senjus, making them stumble a little. Suddenly another older Uchiha ran inside the battle, stabbing the brown-haired Senju through the neck from behind. Kawarama. The Senju crumpled to the ground as his oldest comrade, a boy of 10 with jet black hair, stabbed the older Uchiha in the chest with an anguished cry. The sudden death startled the fighters of both sides, including Izuna. Blood flew in the air as the silver-haired Senju swiped Izuna's sword away and stabbed him in the chest. Naruto cried for his brother, who grunted and punched his attacker, sending him stumbling away. The mixed-haired Senju boy tried to attack Izuna again, only to receive a swift strike across his eye that sent him crashing away, screaming in pain. Naruto ran towards his brother, managing to catch him in his little arms as they both fell to the ground. Izuna. The Senjus were already hovering near their dead comrade, and the injured one who just lost an eye courtesy of Izuna's blade. Izuna coughed blood and gingerly pressed his trembling hand towards his chest, only to see it return soaked in blood. "His blood." "Izuna," cried Naruto. The second son of Taijima hazily glanced at his brother, who was crying hysterically. Izuna coughed but managed to smile and lay his bloodied hand on his sweet brother's cheek. It was all getting so dark, the noises of battle fading away, and only his brother's cries filled Izuna's ears. He glanced at the boy whom he had loved more than anything in life and smiled. "Be happy, little brother." Naruto froze when his brother's hand fell from his cheek, his chest went still, and his eyes closed with that smile permanently etching across his face. "Izuna, Nisan, get up, please. I won't go outside the walls. I'll do whatever you say, please," he cried, but Izuna didn't answer. He shook his brother again and again, only to receive silence. Naruto gave out an anguished scream and buried his head in his brother's bloodied chest. His heavy sobs making his little body tremble, the noises of battle being blacked out. He cried so hard, he screamed, but Izuna never answered. "No." He hesitantly looked up with his blood-stained face to see Madara standing a few feet away, with a horrified expression etched across his own bloodied face. The eldest son of Taijima roared as a wave of chakra was unleashed from his body, sending every nearby warrior to their knees. The anger in Madara's eyes was enormous as he charged and sliced the nearest Senju in half. The younger Senjus who had attacked Naruto started backing away, carrying their dead and injured comrades farther away. Naruto saw dozens of older Senju had zeroed down on Madara and the threat he posed. And they were charging towards him. With strength he didn't think he ever had, Naruto got up and charged towards his last brother. He was not strong as his brothers, but he was faster than them. A skill he displayed as he sailed past older warriors, slashing their legs with his Tonto mercilessly. Madara wreaked carnage across the battlefield, killing anything and anyone in his way with his sword, with large fireballs and shuriken jutsu. Naruto protected his furious brother's rear with the help of other Uchihas, who joined the carnage with righteous fury. To Madara. The Uchihas rallied to that battle cry with Naruto in the front of the new charge following the lead of his eldest brother. It was as if a tidal wave had been unleashed as lines upon lines of Senju warriors were cut down. Madara's fury knew no bounds, and no shinobi could stand against him. Those who tried lost their lives instantly. Naruto didn't know how long he fought, or how many he killed, or how many of his own clansmen died in the charge. He was so angry and hurt. Another horn sounded across the battlefield, and seconds later the Senjus started to flee deep within the forests where they came from. "Run, tree huggers," yelled an Uchiha. Victory! Fire and blood. Naruto slumped to the ground gracelessly and lay there motionless. He felt a pain in his left arm and the left cheek of his face. But he didn't care, for Izuna was dead. Yashiro and Inabi too. His brothers. Many Uchihas huddled around him and lifted him on their shoulders, calling him a hero, the young dragon, the brave. However, they had to clear a way as Madara came charging back with desperation evident in his eyes. His eyes finally zeroed in on his youngest and last living brother, and he ran towards them. Naruto was still numb when he felt himself being lowered to the ground moments before a strong pair of arms grabbed him in a fierce hug. He slowly looked up to see it was Madara, who had tears falling from his eyes. Whatever differences the two brothers had in life were drowned in the pain they felt in this moment. Naruto slumped in Madara's arms and cried as his brother held him. It was this scene upon which Taijima Uchiha arrived and saw the gasps along with stunned looks on the faces of his clansmen. His own eyes widened on seeing his eldest and youngest son hugging each other fiercely, crying tears of sorrow. "Impossible," whispered Taijima as he stared into the eyes of his sons. They were red with tomos. The Sharingan was reborn. Author.
Hey guys, that's gonna be part one of what if Naruto was an Uchiha and in the era of Hashirama and Madara. I hope you guys enjoyed this part. It's new and I'm not sure if y'all are gonna like it. I think it's pretty good personally, and let's go 25 likes for the next part. Thank you guys so much for the support on my previous video. I'm sorry that I left y'all on a cliffhanger. I might not upload a whole bunch in the next coming days until Tuesday next week. Thank you guys so much. If we could get 500 subscribers as soon as possible, and not because I want to have 500 subscribers, but I think I get a community tab whenever we do that, and I want to be using that to find out what you guys want to see next. Uh, love you guys, and I'll see you in the next part. Bye.